morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lindsay Hendrick, Executive Director of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of the Niagara Chamber Partnership, which includes Fort Erie, West Lincoln, Grimsby, Lincoln, Niagara Falls, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Thorold, Port Colborne, Wainfleet, Well, and Pelham Chambers, I'm thrilled that all of you are able to join us in this morning's informative session. Through the NCP's Road to Recovery series, we have been bringing you fantastic conversations with industry leaders from different sectors, covering topics that are relevant to our members and business community. Today, we'll be learning the best practices for recruiting and retaining talent. I want to provide a special welcome to Vern Mallow from Growth Associates, a longtime champion of local chambers, as our moderator for this series. A brief bio on our moderator before we get started. Vern is a professional engineer and an Ivy MBA and holds a business development background that ranges from working with large multinational corporations to small and medium enterprises. We thank Vern for moderating the session. So let's get started. Over to you, Vern.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's great. You know what? This is a fantastic topic, and I'm not surprised that we're ramping up on a lot of people in the first 2 minutes of broadcasting here. I think we'll all agree that if we surveyed businesses that we know and asked them what their biggest limitation to growth is right now, 90% would probably say it's lack of skills and lack of labor, for that matter. It's a crisis. It's the biggest impediment to growth to our economy from a private sector standpoint, and it's vital that Niagara as a whole beat out other jurisdictions, that we become better at this than others, and because that's the only way we're going to win. So happy to see our panel that we have today. Great cross section of expertise and experiences and what's happening right now, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say and pick their brains and see if we can't help Niagara as a whole in our membership. I'll pass it on to the panelists to individually introduce themselves, tell us a bit about you, what your role is, what your organization does, and let's start with Michelle DeLuca.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle DeLuca. I work at Durward Jones Barkwell and Company, DJB for short. DJB is a public accounting firm here in Niagara, but we have an HR advisory practice within the firm. So I work as a part of that team. So I work providing HR support to our small, medium-sized business clients. So I'm a senior HR consultant here. And we also have, of course, our internal HR folks, which we collaborate with, but I fully support our clients, which are those small, medium-sized businesses who either don't have an HR person, or they have one poor HR person or person who is designated to do all of the HR stuff, right? Sometimes it's a finance person, sometimes it's an operational person, but the HR stuff has to go somewhere. So it usually goes to just someone who maybe pulls the shortest straw, I'm not sure, but that's what I do here. So happy to be here today as a part of this panel, and look forward to hearing the thoughts from the other panelists in terms of what's going on out there in terms of labor and talent.
Great, thanks, Michelle. Marina Butler, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me on this panel. I'm president of Employment Professionals Canada, short form EPC. We've been in business for 30 years, celebrating our 30th year this year. Our specialty is recruitment, staffing, and placement on all levels, and of course, human resource consulting, policy development, training, and development. So I too, as Michelle says, am looking forward to input from the other panelists and find out how we're doing in Niagara, and hoping to share how we're doing in Niagara and how our clients are doing as well.
Oh, great. Thanks, Marina. And last but not least, Kevin Verhoef. Kevin, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel, and thanks everyone for joining. I have a little bit of a different background. I'm an electrical contractor in the area, second generation. I started trained under my dad. He started the business in 1984, so we're approaching 40 years coming up. It's gone through a lot of cycles in that time, but in the 20 years that I've been part of the business, we've gone from, well, it started with myself and my dad, and now we're up to about 40 employees. And so most of that is on the field. There's about 30 in the field, and there's about 8 to 10, around 10 of us in the office. So there's different roles there, and definitely different challenges for hiring and recruiting and retaining. There's almost two different, the admin team and then the on the job team. So yeah, myself, I like I said, I started in '99 training, got my master's license in 2004, Canadian fire alarm certificate in 2009. I attended Mohawk. I did just a business admin, pretty basic program there for 2 years, but it was very valuable at that time, and it's helped. Some of the biggest things, the ideas there, along with, of course, just working alongside my dad, who'd been in business already for 20 years, learned a lot about working with employees and how to do that. Like I said, second generation company, around 40 employees. We work in all different sectors. We've got the residential, commercial, and horticulture, which all have their different challenges, of course. And then recently we started an automation company, dealing with a Dutch company there that works in climate control systems, particularly in greenhouse sector. And then recently they've also gone to the vertical grow sector. So there's a nice company in Welland that we just, Vision Greens, that's a new kind of startup company. So that's kind of some of the exciting stuff we've been doing. And yeah, I look forward to sharing a little bit about my experience, not so much from obviously an HR full-time role, but that is definitely part of what I do on a daily, weekly basis as well. So thanks for having me.
Oh, great. Thanks, Kevin. I think having a viewpoint from the trades perspective is going to be a very important one, that's for sure. So that'd be great to hear from you. Let's start with our first question, shall we? It reads, what have been your biggest challenges in terms of labor and skill sourcing? And for that, why don't we start with Michelle?
Great, thank you. Where do we begin with the list of challenges, I think, as of late? And I've been doing a lot of different little sessions talking about retention and recruitment lately. And I always try and start out by saying, I didn't bring my magic wand with me today to give you, all the answers, because I think even HR professionals are struggling with what the answers are. But in terms of biggest challenges, just the number of candidates, finding talent. We keep saying, where have all the people gone? We don't know. They're leaving their industry that they're in, perhaps, but I recruit across all industries and they're not in those industries either. So we don't know where they've gone. So the number of candidates has gone down considerably. The quality of candidates I find that I get for roles when I'm recruiting has gone down considerably. Salary expectations are kind of through the roof. So where I used to be able to predict quite with some degree of accuracy what someone might expect for a particular role in terms of salary. Now, when I speak with them, it's like way up from where I would have normally expected it to be. Competition, there's just more competition. Everybody's looking for people. Everybody is looking for people. And especially if I think of it from an internal perspective here, DJB hiring accountants, they seem to be I'm sure everybody seems to be a hot commodity today, but accountants are a hot commodity. And so just trying to find and compete with other accounting firms, or even for my clients, just whatever business they're in, just whoever their competition is. And also just the flexibility of it all. So the work I do with clients, I find there's some resistance sometimes to be flexible in what they are offering in terms of, working arrangements and things like that. I still have some clients that are very, I don't want to say old school, but just more traditional perhaps in terms of what they think the workplace should look like. And so they are then particularly challenged due to a lack of flexibility. So I think just having to be more flexible than ever. So those are some of the challenges that I've been seeing, at least, and I'm sure the other panelists will have more to add to that as well.
That's awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Marina, what are your challenges that you've encountered?
Our challenges are similar to Michelle's, and I think that you're going to have that across the board. One of the things that I will say is that it definitely is an employee market, and employers have been stepping up to try to change their models in order to keep up with the new trends of work-life balance and remote work. The biggest challenge I find right now for our clients and for us internally as well is getting individuals to commit and not be enticed by counter offers somewhere else. And so I think that communication piece has to be consistent and it has to be constant in order to get those individuals to make that commitment to the employers. And then there's the quiet quitting that we're experiencing in the marketplace. And just for those that don't understand the terminology, it's individuals who haven't left their employer, but certainly have checked out emotionally, mentally, and have given them what they need based on the number of hours that they're putting in and what their value is per their salary. And they don't go beyond that. So the crisis now, I believe, is finding the individuals, as Michelle mentioned, finding the individuals that can commit to giving their all and then some, and adding more to the employer base and resource.
My goodness, just hearing both of you before we hear from Kevin, this is a scary situation. I don't think anybody could have predicted in 2018 or 2019. I mean, who would ever think that we would be saying this publicly right now in a matter of 3 years? It's unbelievable. Kevin, what can you add to challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I have a much different experience. I'm very limited in obviously the field and the type of employee that I'm looking for. I mean, it's journeyman or apprentices. I mean, we have not really ever looked for journeyman, the trained up person already. We usually start with either a laborer. So we've started working with the schools for co-ops. We've gotten a number of good recruits through there. And then we find that, they come with, a lot less expectations, a lot less kind of, well, this is how I've always done it. So that's been helpful in terms of challenges. I mean, for us, I mean, again, where I'm saying we're unique because it's construction. So it's very cyclical. There's been a big challenge the last couple of years is trying to predict in time when we need employees and when we don't, because some projects get delayed 6 months. Others say all of a sudden everyone wants it done, when they have their project deadline, but that doesn't always happen. So just kind of timing the market and when we need people has been a big challenge. And I don't see that going away anytime soon, actually, because it's just everything's still in flux, even the supply chains, all that kind of stuff. So we're really having to that's our challenge in kind of a construction side of things. We're fortunate. I mean, there's been a big push towards the trades the last number of years from either the government or the schools. So we actually have a lot of people, like it's very specific. They want to be an electrician, so they come with that mindset already. And so that's, we have a lot of people actually dropping off resumes. And so it's really more of just, like I said, that timing challenge that we face. So.
But would you say that perhaps not having a crystal ball, but it sounds like you've had a good promotion from within strategy all along, and that's probably put you in a very, very unique position regarding perhaps even relative to your competition. Would you say that's happened and it's really turned out to be in your favor?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's a bit of a longer term strategy that way, developing, because it is a 5-year process before you have a journeyman. It's 9,000 hours, 6 months of school. And there's the challenges in that, because right now we've got 15 apprentices. They all need to go to school. So you have to it's a lot of balancing and juggling that way, because you're training them for 4.5 years. They have to go to school 3 times throughout that 4.5 years. So that's a trick. However, though, we do have, like I said, we have a lot of friends that get referred. We don't quite have a formal referral program, but we do have a lot of people that suggest to their friends or family that, you should, definitely apply and try and get in. So that's definitely been nice for sure.
Wow, cool. Let's go on to our next question then. I have to keep sharp objects away from me right now because those challenges are pretty severe. What have been some of the strategies that you've implemented or have seen implemented by others that have the greatest impact on recruiting and retaining staff? We've already heard one thing from Kevin, but let's start with Marina this time. What have you found that are good strategies, Marina?
So we've been able to turn things around in attracting great talent for our companies. And to Kevin's point, a lot of our clients are are implementing and have implemented strategies to train within and grow the individuals within. So that's been an attractor for outside candidates, is to let them know that growth potential is there, training is there. We've added incentives to attract and retain those individuals by signing bonuses. Also, knowing what's important to them and finding out what they need from the employer, and then having the employer tailgate in and discuss what they can deliver for them as part of their wish list. So those are some of the things that we've done to assist. What we've also done, also to Kevin, and I know that Michelle will probably say the same thing, but we tapped into our external resources. So creating partnerships with colleges and universities, creating partnerships with trade centers and learning centers, unions, Indigenous trade educational programs. So we have tapped into all of those resources, created those partnerships and assisted them in placements. And it's worked out really quite well.
Nice. That's great. Kevin, why don't you, is there anything else you can elaborate on as far as strategies that have worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say some of the big things we're really trying to, like, the money is obviously one thing, and we try and be really competitive, especially within our area. Benefits, we've had the benefits for a while, health and dental. We started a pension plan a few years ago, a matching program. We're a non-union company, so some of those things weren't necessarily always there in the trades over the last, like, I definitely know a generation ago with my dad, that stuff was not there. And so we're trying to, always be, if not the top, close to it. And then the other strategies were really kind of, and I honestly did have to kind of ask some of my employees the last few days, like, kind of, why have you stuck around? And that's a little bit of a vulnerable spot sometimes to maybe ask that, but some of the things they definitely, I know you guys mentioned flexibility. So in the scheduling, we've had different employees who say they haven't been able to travel for 2 years because of COVID. So then they want to take a bit of a longer trip. And so we're trying to accommodate some of those things, recognizing that, there's different challenges with family and kids nowadays. So, if some of the guys have to bring their kids to daycare in the morning and just try and, understand that that's just a bit of the reality now. It is with two people working in a home. There's, both parents need to get out and rush. And so sometimes one of the guys needs to go home early and pick up the kids. So trying to be flexible that way and understanding and just recognizing that it's all part of it. Right. And so if they can feel that support, then they're likely to stick around. At least some of the older guys who maybe been in a few different working environments and recognize that you don't necessarily get that everywhere. So we're trying to, like I said, build that bit of a culture of really getting to know the person and their family. And it's maybe, I know there's that, I don't know how much of it, and this is where I don't know what the actual, like, say, the training or would recommend, but having the relationship with the employee, understanding them, and say trying to build that family kind of team unit really. That's been one thing that we've really worked towards, and that's why we implemented, we have a social committee now that's led by the employees. And so they look at, fortunately enough, I mean, it works that we're able to do a Christmas party. I know not everyone can do those events anymore, just budget constraints and all that kind of stuff, but we're still able to do that. And then, I mean, a thing that doesn't cost money is, and I know a lot of people have started to implement like team building or just the community outreach thing. So I know a lot of guys have really enjoyed being able to use their skills, for example, with Habitat for Humanity, or there's a Village of Hope project that we're going to be working on in the next few weeks. And so the guys really kind of bond and get to know each other. So yeah, it makes it difficult when there are harder conversations to have with an employee, but it kind of helps everyone understand each other a little bit more. So that's really something that we've tried to work on. So.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Michelle, would you have any things to add regarding strategies?
probably ditto to a lot of what's been said already. When Marina was talking, I was kind of nodding my head to a lot of the things that she was saying. So, we've seen similar things in terms of what our clients are doing and what we're doing here. So we've seen those referral bonuses. We have a pretty robust referral program here at DJB, and we found that has been successful for us. Marina mentioned those relationships with the colleges and universities. So we have very strong relationships with our local colleges and universities and have for many years. So, sometimes you don't always see the short-term results of that right away. Sometimes it's a little bit of a longer game, but it's an investment worth making for sure. I think even just thinking outside the box. So some of our clients, and even internally, sometimes we are really looking for the perfect candidate. So we're looking for someone, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're looking for someone who has, Canadian experience, Ontario experience specifically. We want someone that has, maybe 10 years in public accounting in Ontario. And then once we start thinking outside the box a little bit, maybe for some of our technician roles and whatnot, and thinking, okay, well, this person doesn't have Canadian experience. They're coming from Italy, let's say, perhaps, but they have that financial background. And we can see that they have the capability and the aptitude to do the work. And maybe it's going to take them a little bit longer. Maybe it's a little bit more training on our end. But we know this person is going to be an amazing employee. We know they're going to show up on time. We know they're not going to be the person to call in sick all the time. They're mature, they're responsible. So they're going to be a really good employee. Can we work with the other things, right, until they kind of upskill a little bit, and can we help them get there? So we've been starting to look at that a little bit more and stop perhaps, turning away candidates that maybe at first glance we'd be like, nope, they don't fit the exact profile we're looking for. Nope, they don't fit the exact profile. So starting to do that. Signing bonuses, I think, Marina, you'd mentioned that as well. I want to say too, we've been encouraging our clients, if you have good employees working for you in your organization, keep them. Do what you can to keep them. Ensure employee engagement is high. You don't want to have to go looking for new people in this marketplace. So you may already be short of employees, but certainly you don't want to lose the good ones that you have working in your organization now. So engagement is key. And I think there's a whole, I could go on for a long time talking about employee engagement and all of the things that are important to ensure that your employees are engaged. And how do you know they're engaged? Someone mentioned, well, hey, I asked them, why do you like working here? Having those kinds of formal and more informal conversations, whether it's stay interviews, exit interviews, pulse surveys, those kinds of things, finding out what your employees really value, right? Stop assuming we know what they value, let's ask them. And then really try and work to retain the good employees that we have, keep engagement high. That translates into, someone going home and telling an uncle, an aunt, a friend, or whatever about what a great place it is to work, at your company. And so that word of mouth as well. So again, as I mentioned, I could go on about engagement. I think it's vitally important to your organization, and selling your organization is a great place to work, right? You want your organization to be that irresistible place to work where people want to go. I think also too, in the recruitment process, Marina, I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but you really have to be quick, more so now than ever in that process. So if you let a candidate sit for even a day too long, they're gone. So you really have to have your recruitment processes nailed down, and whoever's participating in that process here, we have different managers and partners who are participating in that process. And sometimes it's hard to say, to get their time and to say, okay, well, we need you to meet with this person and it has to be today, or it has to be, and sometimes the process drags on a little bit. People are moving, people are leaving, people are going to other offers in the time frame that is taking you just to interview them sometimes. So be very quick in your processes, have those processes nailed down. Don't let the candidates sit because they're getting those counter offers. They're getting 2 or 3 offers from other companies. So I think there's a lot of good things that are happening in companies to try and make their place, a place where people want to work. But I think still lots to do in that regard. Is Vern frozen?
Vern, are you frozen?
Did we lose Vern? I left him speechless.
There, I'm back
There
again.
we go.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Bell Canada. There's a good word out for you. I'm sorry, Michelle. Had you finished what you were going to say?
I rendered you speechless. Apparently, we were joking, but yes, I have finished what I was going to say. Thank you.
Great. If I can make one comment on what you said about looking for the perfect candidate to replace Charlie, who's retiring. I really like Warren Buffett's methodology for hiring. And if you look at all the corporations that he influences and, has ownership in and so forth, and he says, I look for only three things. I look for integrity, intelligence, and energy, and I'll teach them everything else. And I think that's something we need to, instill more in our employers today. And those that don't have it need to pick it up pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I would agree. I think that's a great follow-up. I think just not expecting people to necessarily come with all the skills, but come with the ability and the aptitude and the attitude and all of those things. And you can teach them some of the other things as long as they have that aptitude. So.
And whether we see it happening or not, technologies are influencing us so much, be it putting an ERP system in or even something very simple, Zoom and so on and so forth, right? Even simple apps. The new graduates, the younger people are going to be far better at implementing that readily than Charlie, who's retiring. So, in fact, they say that 40% of the skills that we need to use in the next 5 years wouldn't even know what they are yet. But that younger generation is going to have it. So anyways, it's a good way to convince employers that they should move on. Let's go to our third question. And what recruiting outreach have been most successful for you or your clients? Let's start with Kevin on that one. In terms of outreach strategies.
Yeah, so I kind of touched on it a little earlier, and I think it was Michelle or Marina said the word of mouth has been huge for us. I mean, that was particularly when we're looking for apprentices and laborers. That's been the biggest help. I mean, other than using a little bit of social media for us, Instagram, Facebook, kind of putting it out there that we're looking. So that has, got the resumes coming in again when we post that stuff. And then we are, like I said, we're a smaller company, so we're working with HR company. We work with Laura from Essential HR, and that's been a big help. Just getting us kind of organized, helping us to kind of process in our mind what we're looking for, especially if we're looking in the office. Because again, when I'm trying to hire an payroll or admin project manager, that way assistants, I only come with the skill set of being an electrician if I know what I'm looking for in that aspect. But when it comes to kind of the current trends and market considerations that way, I'm out of it. So that's where outside help really does help a lot. And obviously Michelle and Marina, that's who you turn to experts like them to help with that and kind of like I said, be specific of what we're looking for. And then funny enough, sometimes like the last person we hired, we went through that whole process, and I can definitely share that concern about it. It happens quick, and people aren't sitting around very long at all thinking like that has changed. But then oddly enough, it's just someone randomly that we met in the community playing, it was actually cornhole. And then all of a sudden someone says, oh, I'm actually thinking of looking. Oh, well, what are you doing Monday? Do you want to come in and talk? So, but at that point, we already kind of refined in our minds what we were looking for. So that process going through that definitely helped to narrow that down. So yeah, I guess not necessarily a specific strategy that's worked other than, I said, turning to the experts when I don't know what to do, right? So that's been helpful.
That's awesome. Michelle, what can you add to that?
Yeah,
as far as outreach strategies.
Yeah, I think I spoke a little bit to some of what we've been doing. The word of mouth obviously being still very effective. I think as well, even we have resorted to, even though we have people who recruit all the time within our organization, even we develop relationships with outside recruiters. So recruitment agencies that just do recruiting. Sometimes they have a pool. We don't keep a pool for every industry, for every client that we might be recruiting for. So we're very open and not, protective of reaching out to others who are in a similar industry or line of work to us to say, hey, if you have a great candidate for this client, I'm looking, let us know if you come across anybody that you think might be of interest. So I think it's just developing some of those partnerships that might seem like unlikely partnerships even. I had a client call me the other day to say, oh, a recruitment agency reached out to me and said they might have a candidate for this role that we had posted. He says, are you okay with me, speaking with them? And I said, if they have a candidate for you and this role that we've been struggling to find somebody for, I said, please, yes, please talk to them, because my priority was finding them the best candidate. And if they can find one through someone else, then that's fine as well. So I think just exploring new ways of recruiting. We've used you mentioned kind of software and technology and whatnot. And we've tried out some AI kind of technology here, just in terms of how to bring in and how to sift through and look at resumes and whatnot. So being open, I think, to those new technologies and just utilizing some of the third-party resources that we have available to us, our referral programs and whatnot, I think have been effective strategies for our clients and for ourselves.
Has anybody used AI video interviewing? I know. So yeah, interesting. So Marina's up next. So Marina, please include that in your outsourcing strategy.
Yes, for sure. So you were mentioning technology, and I was kind of doing an inventory of what we've been doing to move companies forward and to move at lightning speed. So, and that's the issue. You have to ask the question, what is time? So it's either moving painstakingly slow or at lightning speed. And with the current marketplace, you have to move at a quicker pace. And the only way that you can do that is to implement technology that works for everybody. And so part of that is having an ATS system and an interview platform we've invested heavily in. So we can, at a click, convert moments and capture those moments in an interview that captures the essence of the individual, their skill sets, their personality, whether it's a cultural fit, and we can provide that to our clients, to ourselves. And now the clients who are wearing multiple hats can actually sit at their desk or at the comfort of their own home, go into the platform and click, listen to the interview, look at their resume, find out more about the individual, and then set up that interview for them to come into their own premises and do a work site.
That is awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's staying right there with the cutting edge of technology, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Good for you. On this whole question of outsourcing, I just thought of it the other day, and I said, you know what, I'm debating whether all this aloofness of taking on a job or ghosting an interview or whatever else, may have had its initiation from dating apps. It's really similar, isn't it? A dating app, not that I've ever used one, I've been married for 47 years, but you're just flipping through and you say, well, that looks pretty good. I'll click on that one. And you flip through 10 more and you click on the next one. And they're doing that with job descriptions now. And so, all of a sudden you've clicked through 12 and you only want to do 3 interviews next week because you're busy, and you ghost the others and so on and so forth. I don't know if you felt that technology has overflowed into job search, and people are treating it the same way.
Yeah, if I can just interject here, Vern, I find that the more videos that we produce to attract candidates, the better the response rate, because now they've got that human touch and that interpersonal that they've been missing from platforms where it's just written script. And I think if employers continue to use platforms like Indeed and they're using the written script, then they have to redesign how they're putting their job descriptions forward and start off with what it means to you and what it is for you and why it's important to you. When you start off the job classification or the job posting that way, then you're going to have better buy-in from those candidates.
So true. That's and again, too many job descriptions are still the reverse, aren't they? You have this much experience, you have this capability and this education, and you start at 8 o'clock in the morning and you get 2 weeks vacation, and we're telling them all that right up front, right?
I think just to interject for Just on the ghosting, because you're mentioning ghosting, and I think that's, there would have been a time when we would have never seen that, where someone, is scheduled for an interview, doesn't show up. Sometimes they call, sometimes they don't, or actually gets offered a job and then doesn't show up for the first day. Sometimes they call. That would have been unheard of, but now that's more common. But I think too, there might be a slight turn there, I think too. From an employee perspective, employees forget, as big as the world is, it is a very small world. And you'd be surprised how many times that kind of comes around, right? So someone, because I work for a variety of clients in a variety of industries, I may get a client, doing something of that nature for one role, and then you see their name pop up for another client and they're applying for something else, which we are also kind of managed. So they forget that, the HR world is a very small world, and people do stay connected if they're in similar industries or whatnot. So, from a client perspective, I think, we're looking at it, I know from the employer perspective today, but I think, our employee friends want to just be careful as well, too, when they're doing those kinds of things, the ghosting and whatnot, that sometimes that kind of, comes full circle, surprisingly enough, in this big world of ours.
Good point. Very good point. Yep. And it's not hard to keep track of everybody who ghosted you and have their name listed there with a check mark, right?
Yeah. I don't want to overstep Vern, but I was just curious to know too how Michelle and Marina deal with, because like you say, the market shifted and it's an employees market now. So how do you, you're basically trying to sell the companies that you're recruiting for now. Like, how do you engage the employee or the potential candidate to say, like, this is what we're offering, and that versus this is what we need. It's like, this is what we can offer you. And how do you guys deal with that now?
Michelle, do you want to start on that one?
Sure. I think, especially for a business like yours, Kevin, I think you had already mentioned, you're hiring a certain type of candidate primarily, right? So the folks that are applying to come work for you, they kind of know what the job is. There's not a wide variety of things that they're going to be doing when they come to work for your company. So I think that really highlighting all of the things outside of the job itself that you offer as the company. I think you talked to some of that, but really, I think, they know it's an electrical company. I'm applying as, to work as an electrician, or, I want to apply for an apprenticeship or whatnot. So they know that already. They probably know what the work is for the most part. So, but what don't they know, right? So what don't they know? They don't know about your company. They don't know about the culture. They don't know about, if you have kind of flexible scheduling. They don't know if you have, all of the things that you offer them. Most companies nowadays, offer benefits, but there are still plenty of companies out there that have partially employee paid benefits. So if you're 100% paid, or you do something different or unique, talk about that. Mental health and wellness is always a priority. So if you take measures in that regard, as it relates to the mental health and wellness supports that your employees have available to them, maybe you're talking about that. So I think just all of the other things outside of this is the job that you can highlight and illustrate for candidates makes you appealing. I don't know, Marina, if you have something else more specific to add or whatnot.
Yeah, no, I think everything that you've said is very true and spot on. I think the add-on there is to position and control the narrative. And here's an example. I have been doing research in the aerospace field, and there is a company locally to Niagara who starts out their meetings with their employees that with the comment that says, we don't just make widgets, we make parts that save lives. And it's such a powerful messaging statement. And I think that what people are looking for is that gravitational pull towards companies that have more meaning than just the job itself. Mm-hmm. And that the job that they're going to be performing isn't just a job. It mm-hmm. is something that's going to change the lives of others as it progresses through the plant and then to the marketplace. And I think that that's key to ownership and key to career growth and self-esteem as well as confidence. So I think those are important things to mention.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I think, and just to piggyback onto that, even you mentioned development, I think growth and development is a big thing
It is.
that we're seeing more and more of now. And it doesn't even have to be vertical growth. Sometimes it's horizontal growth. Sometimes it's expanding skills and knowledge that way as well. So you might say, I have a flat organization. I really don't have any place for someone to go per se, especially in the short term, but there's other opportunities, learning and development that can happen horizontally as well. So I think, you mentioned kind of having a connection. So understanding their impact, right? I don't just make the widget, but what I do matter?
Yes.
Learning and development opportunities. I think even just being a good community partner too, I find, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, but certainly more and more younger employees coming into the workforce are looking for, companies that have integrity and companies that are doing something meaningful within the communities that they serve. So all of those good things, I think just are so vitally important, more so now than ever. Before, I maybe never had to talk about that because candidates were just flowing in to your business, right? But now more than ever, I think it's about all of these other things that we're talking about.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I apologize, but diversity and inclusion is a big part of that. And to your point, Michelle, the generation that's coming up is more inclusive, and they really want employers to embrace that.
It's really interesting. If you look at an attraction to an organization that has diversity and inclusion, and also an organization that has core values that talk about we don't make parts, we make lives. It's interesting from a symptom and a cause aspect is that those two characteristics probably are ones that attract employees that have a greater retention rate. And so you can get rid of the ones that are going to be flashes in the pan by talking about core values and that sort of thing. And I don't know, I'll ask the question, how easy have you found it to be for your employers, or maybe Kevin, other companies like yours or whatever, to really start talking about those things publicly, or even to have put them together in words in terms of what do we stand for? We don't build homes, we don't build houses, we build homes, or do they I have to say that now, so I'll just put it up there, but I don't really mean it. Is that conversion over to that mindset something that's happening? Is it happening slowly? What's everybody feel in terms of the reaction from the business world? I'll start with Kevin on that one. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely, it's a passion of a number of our employees, right, to be involved, like I said, in like that community outreach aspect, and to use their skills beyond just getting a paycheck at the end of the day. Like it's at least that's for myself as well, like being able to help others, and so that I think some of our employees have definitely appreciated that about us. They know that, yeah, like the others have mentioned already, it's not just about the little piece that we make or pulling wire in a house, it's people's homes. And so we've got guys who really like working in the residential field because they get to work directly with the end user, the homeowner, right? But then we've got guys who really like working in the agricultural sector because they see it as such a global, like the food insecurity issues, and they're helping like I mentioned, the vertical farm, and now we're going to be part of that aspect, and they see kind of the growth and the change and different things. They like those challenges, and they see that bigger picture kind of thing that you guys were mentioning. That's the one thing. I going back a little bit, but you guys touched on the training or kind of expanding their skill sets. That's one thing that we did implement a few years ago too, is that if anyone has a course or a program that they want to take that will, and it doesn't necessarily have to be directly related. Like we've got one guy, he's an electrician, but he wants to take an AutoCAD course at Niagara. So we say, yeah, if you pass the course, send in the invoice and we'll pay for that, right? Because at some point it's just bettering themselves, and it's so, and it's not overly expensive to help cover those costs, but it definitely just invests in themselves. And so we found that to be a number of guys have taken up that offer for that kind of extended training. That's kind of what I think about that at this point.
Cool. Michelle, what are your thoughts on the speed at which our employers are coming to the new realization?
I think I have a dual mindset there. I definitely have some clients and have worked with folks who understand kind of the shifting mindsets and who are trying to get on board and do some of the things that we've been talking about. I do also have clients who are very firmly stuck in kind of the workplace of yesterday. And I think they see this coming out of COVID as an opportunity to return back to the workplace of yesterday. Okay, we're coming out of COVID now. We did all these things. They were great little initiatives to kind of have in place while we needed to get through COVID. But now that COVID's done, we can kind of go back to how things were before. And those clients will be particularly challenged. And I do let them know that when I speak with them as well, that you will be particularly challenged to find this person that you want, because these are the parameters in which you want this person to come and work. And these are the things that you're offering. And we know that your competition is doing these things. So, and some of them are that's the way they want to move forward. So, you kind of give your best advice and guidance, and then, they make the decision for themselves. But I think they will be particularly challenged. So I think it's, from my perspective, I see kind of some of them move forward and some of them not move forward. But I think that will change.
Neat. Marina?
Yeah, out of necessity. I think
out of necessity, out of survival.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the market has changed for a positive turn. And I think that a lot of the employers that have pivoted and implemented some of the changes are going to excel, as Michelle mentioned, and those that were less flexible are going to meet some challenges and get behind very fast. And I really believe that the market will adapt again next year. I think we're going to start seeing a return to more stabilized trends in terms of trying to get that talent and having them commit and move forward. And I think that it's just a holding pattern right now, and we'll have to deal with it until the next change comes, and we'll have to deal with those obstacles. But I really do believe that the changes have been to better the employers, better, the playing field for the employees, and have this insight that they need to survive in an economic winter. So
it's an economic winter, but we're creating a better world.
Yes,
that'd be fair.
Exactly.
I have a question to parachute in here, and it's a personal observation. So please speak against what I have to say. Recently we're maligning the fact that with 400,000 new Canadians coming in per year, we don't have enough houses to even house them, and nobody goes to the extra step to say that it's partly because we haven't immigrated any trades that could build those houses. So my question to you is, on a broader national scale, is our Department of Immigration doing their job? And what do you think about that from your perspective? There's a zinger question. I'll start with Kevin. What are your thoughts on it, Kevin?
I don't know that I have any specific comments to that. I mean, I've heard that at different chamber events too, from say a tool and die place where they would like to hire either through a different not the immigration program, but a foreign workers program, and that their skills, I think they're trying to work on that now to implement that their certifications in other countries would be recognized here if there's like a quicker process to allow that. It's Niagara again is probably a little different than if you move on the other side of the Burlington Bridge there, where you might deal with that a little bit more. I mean, obviously, I see that housing challenge, and I think everyone recognizes that. I don't know what the solution is going to be, other than, like you say, like it's being more specific about what skills you're looking to bring into Canada as well. So it's a trick for sure.
Marina, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I've sat on the affordability housing committee here in the Fort Erie area for many years, and that has been an issue for a long time. Speaking to the companies that bring in foreign workers, there's a lot that goes with that. You have to be responsible for their housing, their transportation, their meals. There's a lot of accountability with that, and I think that if we're going to affect change, we have to start at the grassroots with municipalities and get them involved, because with the power of all the municipalities going to the next level and pushing the province and pushing to the next level of the federal, then you're going to start movement that much quicker. I know that there are mandates in place to have affordable housing units available within the next 5 to 10 years and then 20 years. And so each municipality has that, but it doesn't translate in terms of the needs for those individuals that have immigrated to Canada and need proper places to live so that they can contribute to the community and to the workforce. And I think that's a bigger, broader issue, and we all have to band together to push those government entities.
And most immigrants have been gravitated to large urban areas as well, which just
They have.
exacerbates the problem. And just
It
makes
is,
worse.
and it is a great problem, and we have to figure out a solution to attract them to the smaller communities, because that's where they will thrive and we will thrive too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Michelle, you were smiling earlier, so but you're not smiling now. So, but I'm looking forward to what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I don't, because it's such an overwhelming topic. I think there could be a whole panel just on that question alone. And I don't know that I feel well positioned, quite frankly, to provide what is the best solution. Housing affordability, yes, absolutely a huge issue. New immigrants coming into Canada in such great volumes, and making sure that they have an opportunity to use, you mentioned their skills earlier, like making sure that they have an opportunity to use their skills in a way that's meaningful without them not being able to, just because of, whether it be red tape. Like, we need to figure out a way to kind of make that happen. And then I'm thinking about, just from a domestic perspective, just all of the those issues for people who live here already, who aren't new immigrants necessarily, but who can't afford housing either. For people who are trying to get into, we talk a lot about kind of just the skilled trades, and I hear so much about how, we're dying for people in the skilled trades, but I probably know a handful of people who are trying to get into those fields, whether they be new apprentices or whatnot. I know someone who's to speak to Kevin's business, who's trying to get an electrical apprenticeship, who just can't. They've contacted every single person they know in these different areas. So, we have a need, but yet people can't get in. I think there's a lot of work to be done in a whole bunch of the areas that we're talking about. And I don't know that I have the answer for how that's to happen, but certainly pressure on, I think, our government officials is one of the many things that needs to happen for sure.
Even though we are moving in a non-traditional way, perhaps governments are moving more slowly in a non-traditional way. I don't know, but I don't want to be critical, but let me just say we can leave it at that, right? Yeah, cool. Well, let's have closing thoughts. Michelle, can we go to you based on what the whole discussion has been today? Are you leaving with anything you'd like to make sure that you reinforce or that you think is important for our business community to hear from your seat and so forth? So why don't we start with you for closing thoughts, Michelle?
Great, thank you. I think to Marina's earlier point, I think there will be another shift coming. I don't know that it'll happen over the course of this winter, and just with some of the things that are looming with inflation and interest rates and all of that. But I think there will be another shift at some point. But in the meantime, I think one of the things we've recognized at DJB is that it's not just the recruitment person's job to recruit. it's really bigger than that. So it's really making sure everybody who's involved in that process in your organization is on board. So whether it's your employees looking out for those referrals, whether it's the managers, supervisors, partners, whoever you have involved in that recruitment process, they need to all fully understand the challenges, and they need to, as we talked about, keep the process moving, act quickly, all of those kinds of things. They need to understand that maybe we need an investment of some technology in order to run through these, applications more quickly, or to provide a better experience for the candidate when they're applying to jobs. So there's a whole body of people, I think, that have to be involved in this process, not just the recruitment person's job solely on their own anymore. Think about all the things, continue to think about all the things that you could be doing, maybe that you're not, in order to attract, but also to retain the great people that you have. Find out what your people want, talk to them, do these surveys. They're quick, they're easy, they don't have to be overly cumbersome, but find out what they want, what's important to them, and why they like working for your organization, or where you have opportunities as well. So get as much information as you can and use that. I once had a client say to me, but if I ask them, then I have to do something. And I said, well, yes, you do. I'm sorry to say. I think they were afraid that it would be some big, overly cumbersome thing that they might have to do. But I said, it doesn't have to be. There's probably lots of low-hanging fruit that you're not even aware of. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a big thing. Even in the onboarding process, I know we didn't really mention that, but some people think the onboarding process is a one-day orientation. It's not. That onboarding process really happens from the time that you start talking to a candidate in the pre-boarding, we call it, and then right through to the time you hire them, right through the first, the first week, the first 30 days, the first 60 days, the first 90 days, that first year. You can't bring someone into your organization and forget about them. So here at DJB, we have a fairly robust coaching program. It doesn't have to necessarily be robust in your organization. Maybe it's a buddy, maybe it's a coach, a mentor, something. But you want to make sure that you're engaging with that new employee at all facets, right through, like I said, the first year and ongoing. So don't forget about an employee once you kind of get them in the door. And again, just some of the things we talked about, know what the market is doing. So I have some clients as well that have no idea what their roles should be paying. They don't know. They just said, well, we know minimum wage is this, so we just $1 more than minimum wage is where we started. Now people come in, we just pay them that. So really understand what the market is doing in terms of your industry, in terms of your roles within your organization. If you don't know, find out, get somebody to help you. But there's a lot of data out there. So just making sure that you're doing everything that you can and using all the resources available to you to try and attract people to your organization. And Marina and I, being HR people, could probably go on and on and on about that. But yeah, just keep positive, sell your organization, and hopefully we'll all kind of make it through this tricky or difficult or challenging time, and then kind of come out the other end where things kind of normalize themselves, maybe whatever normal is, but kind of normalize themselves again a little bit.
Cool, thank you. That's awesome, Marina. What have you got?
Well, we might as well just send it there. She said it all. What's there left to say?
It was a great summary. It was
well
a great
said,
summary.
Michelle. Yeah. So I think if I'm going to add on to what Michelle has said, I would tell employers to make a plan with 3 simple questions. What do you want? Why do you want it? And how are you going to get there? And those questions can translate to anything that you're doing within your company. What type of people do you want? Why do you want them? And how are you going to get them? And as long as you keep focusing on those 3 questions, you can answer any of the obstacles that you're going through.
That's cool. That's very good. I like that. That's a great summary. That's fantastic, Marina. And Kevin, I have to apologize. Having you last, you probably everybody's still here, but anyways, great to hear what you have to
You're
say.
putting the least experienced person with the final word, which is definitely a challenge. But yeah, I mean, I think just for us, we really try and understand, not so much on the recruitment side, because that's a little tricky, I find, but on the retention side is really just understanding the individual on the individual level and trying. We're fortunate that we've got enough people that we can, because not everyone works well or trains well under different leadership styles. So because we've got a bunch of journey persons and we shift them around and try and find their place within the organization that's best for them, and then try and challenge them and reward them that way, right? So that's this kind of how we really try and get that person suited well they learn and grow in our organization. So being a little flexible and trying to, okay, it's not working with this person, we'll get them over here. But yeah, that only works obviously in our environment. So
we've totally run out of time, but you just opened up a nice Pandora's box of a topic of the fact that all the incoming people are probably millennials, if not Gen Zs, and yet all the supervisors are old fart boomers. And how many of those can actually change their leadership style after having done one way for 35 years? And yet, if they don't, it could be disastrous to the organization, right? So anyways, for another day, right?
yeah.
Anyhow,
That's the next panel.
there you go. Anyways, I'd love to thank the three of you for the time you've taken and for the valuable information and seeing the world from your perspective. It's been fantastic. And I don't know how Dolores did it, but I think she collected three fantastic people to carry on with this topic. So thank you so much to all three of you. I'll mention something about next week's panel, if I may. It's a session that's going to focus on resources to assist in the transition and implementation of a successful digital program. So Marina kind of touched on that a little bit in her discussions, and we're going to have Louis De Palma, Vice President of SME Programs for the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, Evelyn Bailey, founder of Enlightened Art, and Shannon Lapointe, who's owner of Synergy Niagara. So that's next week. Everybody stay tuned. And this week, Michelle DeLuca, Marina Butler, Kevin Verhoef. Thank you so much.